In the workplace, we all desire good relationships, especially for new employees. Having good connections is crucial for career development. Given this consideration, most people choose to be enthusiastic towards their colleagues and always offer help when someone needs it, hoping to gain equal rewards and build better relationships through sincere contributions. Is it really the case? The answer is negative. In reality, a person who often helps others frequently does not receive equal returns. For a social master, the best approach is to first ask for help from others. The occurrence of this phenomenon is based on sound theories. Franklin, a famous American politician, once wanted to win the support of a senator with differing political views. Rather than trying to ingratiate himself, he found another way. The senator had a rare and cherished book, so Franklin respectfully asked to borrow it for a few days. The senator readily agreed. A few days later, when Franklin returned the book, he expressed his gratitude. To his surprise, the previously cold and tough senator began to approach him and express his agreement with Franklin on some issues. They became good friends that lasted a lifetime. From this experience, Franklin concluded, people who you have helped once are more willing to help you than those you have helped. To win someone's support, ask for their help first, and things can turn in unexpected ways. This phenomenon is known as the Franklin effect. In modern marketing, there is a classic example of the application of the Franklin effect. The champion salesperson of an American vacuum cleaner company warned other employees not to just knock on the door and ask, "Can you give me a few minutes to introduce my product?" That's harassment and would make people feel uncomfortable. Instead, one should say, "Hello, I'm just passing by as a salesperson. Can I have a glass of water, please?" Such a request is generally not refused by families, and during the process of drinking water, one can talk about their product in a calm manner. This way, the success rate of sales can be increased to 90%. Using the Franklin effect well can improve relationships and increase contacts by asking others for help. It also prevents being treated as cheap labor. A relative often mentions an annoying coworker of his. This coworker is 1 year older than him, but calls himself Lugo. He often flatters saying, "Ben, your copywriting is really good. Teach me more in the future," or "Lugo, your ideas are too brilliant. How did you come up with them?" At work, this coworker always tries to ask him for help in various ways, but is always said to be not representative, but still asks for help when needed. A relative is constantly complaining about an annoying colleague who is always flattering him by calling him Ben and saying things like, "Lugo, your copywriting is fantastic, teach me more in the future," or "Ben, your idea is so creative, how did you come up with it?" This colleague constantly asks for favors in the workplace, despite saying, "I won't make this a habit," but still takes advantage of the relative's help when needed. The relative is aware of being used as cheap labor but can never say no. Always regretting it later and consoling themselves with the thought that this colleague is not so bad and helping is fine, maybe I will need their help in the future. The cunning colleague may not know the concept of the Franklin effect, but is actually playing it perfectly, being a savvy player in the workplace and perfectly exploiting the relative's tendency to be too nice by flattering and taking advantage of their help as cheap labor. When in need of help, it's wiser to approach those who have helped us before, as they are more likely to assist us again. However, those whom we have helped may not necessarily extend a helping hand. First, the perception of things is determined by one's needs. Social psychology believes that people always view themselves as being correct and rational. This fundamental starting point determines people's perception of things, always being based on the need to justify their behavior. The parliamentarian mentioned earlier may have initially declined Franklin because they didn't want to be perceived as stingy. But after lending the book, they needed to find a reasonable explanation for their actions. The simplest and most effective way was to find the good points in Franklin, thus justifying the lending of the book as being due to appreciation for Franklin and making them feel generous. After this change in evaluation, Franklin's impression became positive, leading to subsequent contacts and friendships. Second, helping others can bring a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. When a person is able to provide help to others without sacrificing too much of their own interests, it creates a great sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. People have a tendency to show off, and when someone requests help from second, helping another, it means that the latter is stronger in that area, which is recognition of their ability. Especially when their positions are relatively others can bring a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment equal. This can provide great satisfaction. Furthermore, when someone seeks help, they are essentially putting the other person in a higher position and themselves in a lower stance. This results in the other person having a mentality of willing to help the weak, and then providing assistance. The books the Congress member collected were willingly displayed for others to know. Franklin borrowing a book from him fulfilled his desire to show off, while Franklin's humble stance acknowledged his knowledge was inferior to the Congress members. It is easy to understand why the Congress member was eager to lend the book to Franklin. This is like a university professor asking a grade school teacher for advice. For the grade school teacher, this alone is a great honor. They will certainly be very willing to answer questions, and it may even be a future boast. Third, the standard for being valued is whether one is willing to offer help. Many people have a misconception in social interactions that if they treat their colleagues well and value them, then the other party should also value them in return. However, the Franklin effect proves that reality is just the opposite. A common example is in a workplace where you do a lot of work for your superior, even things beyond your job description, but in your superior's eyes, it may just be what you are supposed to do and may not actually value you. On the other hand, another colleague is exactly the opposite. He often goes to his superior for advice on business issues and opportunistically asks for resources from his superior, and yet his superior values him very much and helps him solve many problems. It may seem illogical, but upon closer examination, it becomes clear that you just did what an average subordinate should do, while the other colleague, through the act of seeking help, made his superior feel his respect for his professionalism, and enjoyed the power and resource control of being a superior. Thus, it can be seen that whether others value you or not has nothing to do with how much you do for them, but rather how much they are willing to do for you. Fourth, all social activities can be reduced to an exchange relationship. Sociologist Homans founded the theory of social exchange, which arose in the United States in the 1960s and then spread globally as a sociological theory. Due to its emphasis on psychological factors in human behavior, it is also referred to as a behaviorist social psychological theory. This theory holds that all human behavior is dominated by exchange activities that can bring rewards and returns. Thus, all human social activities can be reduced to an exchange, and the social relationships formed through social exchange are also exchange relationships. Only when the process of exchanging spiritual and material goods between people reaches a mutual benefit balance can interpersonal relationships be harmonious, and only under these conditions can interpersonal relationships be maintained. For Franklin, what he paid was respect and humility, and what he received was the support of the member's political views and sustained friendship. For the member, what he paid was only lending his treasured books for a few days, but what he received was the respect of a person like Franklin. This is a mutual benefit balance between the two parties, so their relationship can continue to develop and persist throughout their lives. According to the psychological analysis of the Franklin effect, helping others may not have much effect in enhancing relationships. From the perspective of social exchange theory, there must be an exchange, either a pay first then receive return, or receive first then pay. The difference is that the former is a passive approach, where one waits for a return after paying, while the latter is an active approach, where one receives first and then pays. It is like a balance. If one side increases the weight, the other side must also increase the same weight in order to keep the balance. Once there is an imbalance, the balance will tilt and it can no longer remain balanced. Therefore, the best way to enhance relationships is to adopt an active approach by asking for help and actively giving returns, thereby continuously enhancing the relationship between each other. The first step in building rapport with someone is to appeal to their interests and strengths, and identify a common point of connection. Everyone has their own personality traits, and in life, they may have different temperaments. In work, they may have different areas of expertise and interests. To get closer to someone, it's important to understand these two key points. The first key point: the request must not touch upon their taboo, or it will only generate resentment and possibly even make them consider you an enemy. For example, if the person is very tidy and you insist on leaving footprints all over their office, their impression of you will decrease, making it highly unlikely that your request will be granted. The second key point: the request should target the person's area of expertise or their interests as much as possible. People have a tendency to show off their strengths and will be glad if others take notice. If you seek help from them in this area, it provides them with an opportunity to show their abilities. If you add some compliments, it will greatly satisfy their psychological needs. This way, your request is less likely to be refused. If you also have some knowledge in this area, you may be well received when talking about it, which will help you quickly build rapport with the person. Step 2. Start with small requests that are worth the value and make people willing to help. When you're not familiar with the person, don't ask for things that require a lot of their resources, energy, and time. This is very important. If your request puts a significant burden on the person, it is likely to be rejected. You need to strike a balance between what is difficult for you to do and what is easy for the person to do. The result of this approach is that the person will help you easily, showing their ability and feeling a sense of accomplishment, while also solving a problem for you and incurring a debt of gratitude. This is the situation in which they are most unlikely to refuse. For example, you can ask questions about the person's area of expertise or ask them to help you check or revise some text. Most people won't refuse this kind of help. However, if you don't understand the situation and immediately ask the person to write a plan or complete a task for you, they are unlikely to agree. Step 3. Express gratitude and exchange values to maintain a balanced reciprocal relationship. For social experts, not asking for help and not owing favors is like not socializing at all. This is a subtle rejection of closeness. The essence of socializing is value exchange, and without asking for help or owing favors, there is no basis for value exchange, and socializing cannot even begin. Remember to express gratitude and be willing to repay after receiving someone's help. This has little to do with whether the other person needs your help or not. What's important is for the other person to feel your sincere gratitude and willingness to repay. This is the first step to closing the relationship and enhancing friendship. Then, you will naturally find opportunities to repay. This is like adding a weight to your side of the scale. To maintain a balanced reciprocal relationship, making your relationship more equal and lasting. Summary: strong social relationships are built on shared goals, interests, and hobbies. Interactions through work, study, and life, and mutual appreciation, assistance, and mutual benefit help to maintain equal and lasting relationships. If you are interested in psychology, follow my upcoming videos. Looking forward to seeing you again in the next episode.